The hospital's fluorescent lights buzzed overhead as Dr. Ethan Caldwell scrubbed his hands, the cold water biting his skin. He'd just lost a patient, a young Omega, whose heart gave out during surgery and the weight of it clung to him like damp fog. But before he could process the grief, the ER doors slammed open, and there was Julian King, all 6'3" of him, storming in like a hurricane in a tailored suit. "Ethan," Julian growled, his voice low and ragged, eyes glinting with that feral edge only an alpha in rut could muster. The scent of hemp-sandalwood and something dangerously primal hit Ethan like a tidal wave, making his knees weaken despite his beta biology. He'd known Julian for years, but this was the only time the CEO ever showed up, when his instincts overpowered his ironclad control. "Room 3. Now," Ethan said, voice steady despite the chaos in his chest. He guided Julian past the curious nurses, their whispers trailing like static. In the sterile exam room, Julian gripped the edge of the bed, knuckles white, his breathing uneven. I can't keep doing this," he muttered, but his eyes locked onto Ethan's, desperate and searching. Ethan adjusted his glasses, forcing professionalism over the ache in his heart. He'd been Julian's anchor since college, the beta who could calm his ruts without suppressants, without judgment. But every visit ended the same. Julian would leave, polished and untouchable, while Ethan stitched himself back together. "Lie down," he instructed, pulling out a syringe of calming serum. "We'll get you through this." Julian's hand shot out, grabbing Ethan's wrist. "Don't," he said, voice breaking. "Not yet. I need you to talk to me first." Ethan froze. This was new. Julian never talked during his ruts, never let the walls down. But the raw vulnerability in his friend's eyes cracked something in Ethan, something he'd buried under years of restraint. They'd met at Yale, two scholarship kids against a sea of trust fund alphas and omegas. Ethan, the quiet beta studying medicine, and Julian, the magnetic alpha clawing his way to the top. Their friendship was instant, a tether of late-night talks and shared dreams. But Julian's ambition had built a wall between them, his tech empire swallowing the boy who once laughed over cheap pizza. Now, at 32, Julian was a billionaire CEO, and Ethan was just the doctor he called when his alpha biology betrayed him. "Talk about what?" Ethan asked, his voice softer than he intended. He set the syringe down, leaning against the counter, arms crossed to hide the tremble in his hands. Julian's jaw tightened. "I don't know. Anything. You make it quiet in here." He tapped his temple, his usual confidence frayed. Ethan's heart twisted. He wanted to ask why Julian only came to him like this, why their friendship had become a series of emergencies. But he didn't. Instead, he started talking about the patient he'd lost, about the rain-soaked streets of Seattle outside, about anything to keep Julian grounded. As Ethan spoke, Julian's breathing slowed, his eyes softening. For a moment, they were just Ethan and Julian again. Not doctor and patient, not beta and alpha. But the moment shattered when Julian's phone buzzed. A board meeting. A crisis. Something that always pulled him away. He stood, smoothing his suit, the mask of control sliding back into place. "Thanks, Ethan," he said, already halfway out the door. I'll call you." Ethan watched him go, the ache in his chest blooming into something he couldn't name. He wasn't an omega, wasn't built to crave an alpha's attention. So why did Julian's absence feel like a wound? The next week was a blur of surgeries and night shifts. But Julian lingered in Ethan's mind like a ghost. He tried to focus in charts, on patients, on the mundane rhythm of hospital life, but every quiet moment brought back Julian's desperate eyes, his fleeting vulnerability. Ethan hated how much it mattered, how much he wanted to be more than a fix for Julian's ruts. His phone pinged late one night. A text from Julian, dinner tomorrow. No emergency. Promise. Ethan stared at the words, his pulse racing. Julian never reached out unless he was spiraling. Was this a trick? A mistake? Against his better judgment, Ethan typed back, "Sure." Where? They met at a quiet Italian place downtown. All dim lights and candlelit tables. Julian looked different out of his suit jeans. A black sweater. Almost human. "You look tired," he said, sliding into the booth across from Ethan. "Comes with the job," Ethan replied, forcing a smile. "You look normal." Julian laughed. A rare, unguarded sound. "Don't get used to it." They ordered wine, pasta, and for a while, it felt like college again, easy. Real. Julian talked about his company's latest AI project, his voice alive with passion. Ethan listened, captivated by the fire in his friend's eyes. But the question burned in his throat. Why now? Why this? Halfway through dessert, Julian leaned forward, his voice low. "I've been thinking about you," he said. Ethan's fork stilled. Not just when I'm losing it. I mean all the time." Ethan's breath caught. He wanted to believe it, wanted to let himself fall into the warmth of Julian's words. But years of being the fallback, the safe beta, held him back. "You only say that when you need me," he said quietly, the words sharper than he meant. Julian flinched, his expression crumbling. "That's not true." "Ethan." He stopped, running a hand through his hair. "I'm a mess without you. Not just during ruts. I don't know how to do this." "Do what?" Ethan pressed, his heart pounding. Julian's eyes met his, raw and unguarded. "Need you. Want you. All of it." The restaurant faded away, the world narrowing to the space between them. Ethan wanted to reach out, to close the gap, but fear held him back. Betas didn't fall for alphas. Not like this. Not when the alpha was Julian King, untouchable and larger than life. Before Ethan could respond, Julian's phone lit Eupanather crisis. Another pull. He silenced it, but the spell was broken. "I should go," Julian said, standing. "But I mean it. Ethan. I'm not just using you." Ethan watched him leave, the weight of Julian's words settling like stones in his chest. He wanted to believe him, but trust was a fragile thing, and Julian had broken it too many times. The hospital was a war zone the next time Julian showed up. Ethan was elbow deep in a trauma case, blood on his scrubs, when he caught sight of Julian pacing in the waiting room. No rut this time, just a man unraveling, his tie loose, hair disheveled. Ethan's heart lurched, but he pushed it down, focusing on the patient under his hands. When he finally emerged, Julian was still there, sitting with his head in his hands. "What's wrong?" Ethan asked, exhaustion fraying his voice. Julian looked up, eyes red-rimmed. It's my sister. She's in trouble. I didn't know who else to come to. Ethan's stomach dropped. Julian's younger sister, Mia, was an Omega, fiery and independent, but prone to reckless choices. She's in the ICU. Julian continued. Overdose. I found her this morning. Ethan led him to a quiet corner, away from prying eyes. Tell me everything, he said, slipping into doctor mode. But his hand rested on Julian's arm, a silent anchor. Julian spilled the story: Mia's spiral, her fight with their parents, the drugs. Ethan listened, his heart breaking for both of them. He'd met Mia a few times, a whirlwind of charm and chaos, and the thought of her fighting for her life hit hard. I'll check on her, Ethan promised. But you need to breathe, Julian. You can't fix this by falling apart. Julian nodded, but his eyes were distant, haunted. Ethan wanted to pull him close, to promise everything would be okay. But he couldn't lie not to Julian. He spent the night monitoring Mia, coordinating with specialists, while Julian haunted the halls like a ghost. By dawn, Mia was stable, but the prognosis was grim. Ethan found Julian in the chapel, of all places, staring at the stained glass. She's going to make it, Ethan said, sitting beside him. But it's going to be a long road. Julian's voice was barely a whisper. I should have been there. I was too busy building my empire. And he trailed off, guilt etched into every line of his face. Ethan reached out, his hand finding Julian's, their fingers intertwining. It was a small gesture, but it felt like a lifeline. You're here now? Ethan said. That's what matters. Julian's grip tightened, and for a moment, they sat in silence, the weight of the night pressing down. Ethan felt the pull again, that dangerous, magnetic draw to Julian, but he pushed it aside. This wasn't about them. Not now. Over the next few weeks, Julian was a constant presence at the hospital, splitting his time between Mia's bedside and Ethan's orbit. They fell into a rhythm: coffee runs, quiet talks in the cafeteria, stolen moments that felt like something more. Ethan tried to keep his walls up, but Julian's persistence chipped away at them. He wasn't just the alpha CEO anymore. He was a brother, a friend, a man carrying too much. One night, after Mia's first therapy session, Julian found Ethan in the break room, staring at a cold cup of coffee. You're avoiding me, Julian said, leaning against the doorframe. Ethan's laugh was bitter. I'm not avoiding you. I'm trying to keep my head above water. He gestured to the hospital around them. This is my life, Julian. I can't be your savior every time you need one. Julian stepped closer, his scent wrapping around Ethan like a warm blanket. I don't want a savior. I want you. The words hung heavy, electric. Ethan's resolve wavered, but before he could speak, Julian closed the distance, his lips brushing Ethan's in a kiss that was equal parts desperation and tenderness. It was everything Ethan had wanted and everything he feared. He pulled back, heart racing. We can't, he whispered. You're an alpha. I'm a beta. It doesn't work. Julian's eyes burned with something fierce. Says who? The world. I don't care about their rules. I care about you. Ethan wanted to argue, to list all the reasons this was impossible. But Julian's hand on his cheek silenced him. For the first time, Ethan let himself hope, even as fear clawed at his chest. The kiss changed everything. Ethan couldn't focus, couldn't sleep, couldn't stop replaying the moment Julian's lips met his. But doubt gnawed at him. Alphas and betas didn't belong together, not in the eyes of society, not in the rigid hierarchy of their world. Julian was a force of nature, a man who could have anyone. Why would he choose Ethan, the beta who'd spent years as his safety net? Mia's recovery became their fragile bridge. Julian was there every day, helping her through rehab, while Ethan coordinated her care. They danced around the kiss, neither mentioning it, but the air between them crackled with unspoken words. Ethan caught Julian watching him during rounds, in the cafeteria, in the quiet moments when no one else was around. It was thrilling and terrifying. One evening, as rain lashed the hospital windows, Julian cornered Ethan in his office. "We need to talk," he said, his voice low, urgent. Ethan's heart sank. He braced for rejection, for Julian to say it was a mistake. Instead, Julian stepped closer, his hands framing Ethan's face. "I'm done running," he said. "I love you, Ethan. I've loved you since Yale, and I'm tired of pretending I don't." Ethan's world tilted. "You can't just say that," he stammered. "You're an alpha. You have a life, a company, expectations. I don't care." Julian cut in, his voice fierce. "I've built everything I thought I wanted, and it's nothing without you." He pulled Ethan into another kiss, deeper this time, full of promises neither could fully trust. Ethan melted into it, years of longing breaking free. But fear lingered. What would the world say? What would it cost them? The answer came sooner than expected. A tabloid caught wind of their connection, splashing photos of Julian at the hospital, speculating about the mystery doctor in his life. The headlines were brutal: CEO's secret affair with beta doctor scandal or stunt. Julian's board panicked. His stock dipped, and Ethan's colleagues started whispering. The world wasn't ready for an alpha-beta love story, and it made sure they knew it. Julian refused to back down. He called a press conference, standing before a sea of cameras, his voice steady. "I'm in love with Dr. Ethan Caldwell," he said, the words broadcast across the country. "He's the best man I know, and I don't care what anyone thinks." Ethan watched from the hospital, his heart in his throat. It was reckless, beautiful, and terrifying. The fallout was immediate. Julian's company faced boycotts. His investors pulled back, and Ethan's quiet life became a media circus. But Julian didn't waver. He showed up at Ethan's apartment that night, soaked from the rain, his eyes blazing. "I meant every word," he said. "I'll fight for this. For us." Ethan's walls crumbled. He pulled Julian inside, their lips meeting in a kiss that felt like defiance, like hope. They spent the night talking, planning, dreaming of a future where they could just be Ethan and Julian, not alpha and beta. It wouldn't be easy. A world would push back, and Mia's recovery was still a battle, but for the first time, Ethan believed they could face it together. Months later, Mia was discharged, her smile brighter than Ethan had ever seen. She hugged him tightly, whispering, "Thank you for saving us both." Julian stood beside her, his hand finding Ethan's, their fingers lacing together. The hospital hummed around them, a reminder of the chaos they'd survived. But in that moment, It was just them, two men who'd chosen each other against all odds. They moved to a quieter town, away from the city's glare, where Julian rebuilt his company with a focus on equality, and Ethan opened a clinic for underserved communities. Their love wasn't perfect, but it was theirs, a testament to the courage it took to rewrite the rules. As they stood together on their porch, watching the sunset, Ethan realized that sometimes the greatest healing came not from medicine, but from love that refused to be denied.